Hi, I'm Kim Crosby. I've noticed through many views of my videos that a lot of people are really interested on how to find a core belief or on how to change a belief. So I decided to try and break it down, even make it simpler as I can, so that people can start finding that in their daily life. And it does take practice, so be persistent and don't give up. So let's start with how we find one before we to start seeing how it manifests and then how we transform it. How do you find it? Where does it come from? Now, a lot of times we hear that it happened in our youth, experiences from our culture or our family or our school that created those beliefs as we grew. Now, I've noticed through my own experience that sometimes I get these young teenagers or young adults and they have an issue with depression, with anxiety, but it's good in their family. They can't really find a pinpoint an experience during this life where they can blame or pinpoint, this is what happened to me, this is why I'm anxious. So what I do is I always try to find the original point. And I'm going to show you how we start creating a belief. So I wrote it on my board. So it starts with experience and perceptions about yourself. So this is you, and you have an experience, whatever it may be, which is interacting with others. And then you perceive this experience about yourself, how it made you feel. What did you think about yourself? Because most of the time we always go to projection. They did this happened, and we blame the world. But it still made you feel a certain way. So that's what I'm looking for. It made you feel a certain way. And why did it make you feel a certain way? You were susceptible to feel a certain way. That's what I'm looking for. It's when you felt susceptible to something and you started to integrate that thought. Now, these experiences happen when you're a child, a teenager, a young adult, or in your adult life. And they repeat themselves over and over because this perception and what you integrated as a thought about yourself really started to affect you and you started to believe it. Now, because we're not taught how to observe our thoughts, we just go on in life and we continue to reinforce the perception. Now, when you come into an experience and you already created a thought about yourself, I'm weak, I'm powerless, I'm hopeless, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm nothing, whatever you may go, you created this perception from a while ago, and every time you have a perception that will trigger you or an experience that will trigger you, you're going to right away go to that space in your mind about that thought. Now, most of the time is that we avoid it. We don't even pay attention to it. We know we don't feel comfortable, and right away we react. There is no time where you stop yourself and you pay attention in your awareness of how am I feeling right now. We right away go to the behavior. Now, when I look with a client, I always try to find the original moment. Where did you start thinking and feeling this particular thought or feeling? Usually, I always work through a feeling because when clients come in, they don't know their thoughts, which is normal. No one taught you. So what I do is, how do you feel when you don't feel good? What's the trigger moment? Is it sadness? Is it powerlessness? Is it anger? Is it frustration? I go through the realm of emotions and I ask them, how do you feel? They say, well, I know I feel sad and I can't get rid of it. So when I work with them, I say, okay, go to the original moment where you felt this sadness. And most of the time they can recall a memory. And a lot of the time it's current life. They'll go, oh, when I was young or when I was a teenager or whatever time frame. And they go to that moment and they tell me their memory. And I tell them to describe what's happening, who's there, what room are you in, to really get a sense of where you are. And the more you get a sense of where you are in that moment, the more you can recall the emotion and the thoughts you felt. So they'll start telling me a story about when they were young and this person said this and this was happening. And I always ask, how did that make you feel? And then I say, it made me feel like I'm, and then they give me a sentence. It made me feel like I'm powerless, small, nothing, worthless. And there you go. We just found a core belief. Now, some people have a hard time finding this because they're not used to feeling. We want to avoid feelings, especially when they're negative. We try to run as fast as we can and as far as we can from that emotion. But through my experience, I've learned it's actually you have to face the fear. Now, we hear this all the time, movies, theaters, family, friends. You have to face your fears. What does that mean? It's feeling the emotion that you're the most uncomfortable with. So I'm going to use sadness because it's a common one. So they'll say, I felt really sad in this moment when this person or this experience happened. And then you ask yourself again, how did it make me feel in a sentence? It made me feel like I'm, and then you give me a word. Now, once I find this, you go to a past memory in this current life. Sometimes there is no event in this life, so I have to go to a past life. Where did this start? Because you've been doing this for a while, that's why they're so rooted. Now, a lot of people are uncomfortable with past lives, and I understand that. It depends on your belief system, but we know in quantum physics that there's a theory about parallel lives or parallel realities. So that's how I see it, because I had people who don't believe in past lives. They do this session with me, and they're extremely emotional during a past life. And they think it's really weird because I'm seeing these images of whatever time frame you're in, and they're really emotional. And I always ask them, well, the emotions that you were feeling in this particular scene in this past life, is it familiar? And they go, yeah, this is how I feel in my current life. And that's the key. Repetition. It comes over and over, no matter where you look at it, which memory, which past life. I'm looking for repetition of how you're thinking, because that's the dominant thinking pattern that you have. So I always try to find, where did you start thinking, so that I see, where did you get the experience in the perception here? Which was the event that you started thinking, I'm weak, I'm nothing, I'm worthless, I'm powerless, so on and so forth, because this will help me see, how did you perceive a situation? Now, so for people at home, if you want to start, I'll give you something simple. Find the emotion that you feel frequently, most of the time, and then sit down, close your eyes, and feel that emotion and go back to a memory where you started or felt this emotion very strongly. Look at the scene, see who's in the scene, remember how you felt, really grow that feeling. And I know this is not comfortable, but really emphasize, how did this feeling make me feel? It made me feel like I'm, and then find a word. The odds are this is your core belief. Now, if you're struggling and you can't find the word, you can only pinpoint the emotion, keep going. Find another memory. How did this feeling make me feel in this particular situation? Don't go blaming everybody. Maybe they did something to you. I'm not saying that's not true, but you did feel a certain way, and that's what we want to transform. So try it, leave me some comments, and see what you found. I'm really curious. Thank you.